And if you can, message me on Skype. I'm on there, so then that conversation will pop up. Here it is. How do I do that, though? Welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for being patient and waiting. Again, as we know, never a dull moment here at Moonshadow, no matter where I am. It's always interesting. Welcome back, Michael. Michael, tried and true, one of the absolute insight soldiers of the troop. So thank you. And we're working with new technology. So look at this. I had to be like shaven before I did this because it's high def. Not high def, but for my standards, this is pretty high def. So let's see here. One last thing I need to do. Oh, I got it. I got it. When you work on the fly like this, you kind of have to kind of know what you're doing and know where you're going. Looks good? Looks better than usual? Scarier than usual? Ah! So that's what Moon looks like. Oh my gosh. But yes, definitely a pleasure seeing you guys. Well, look. Yeah, I'm getting my. All right, move this over, and then I think we are copacetically good. I think. Yes. So. Yeah, it's crazy. Gotta say, today's topic is going to be interesting because, of course, it's going to very much have to do with on the fly what is actually happening right at this God-given moment. And at this moment, it's all about being on the fly, really. But so I want to welcome everyone here. I see there's quite a few people watching. Also, too, I must also include. Well, actually, I'll get to that when I formally start the show. We'll do that. Well, I'll do shout outs too when I start the show. So yes, but hope everyone's good. You know, just my little banter in the beginning before I start the show is always important, and it helps everyone basically kind of shift gears. And a lot of times that's the case. Hey, hailing from the Bahamas, we have Pamela and we have Michael from Minnesota. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, but overall, it's really great to see you guys. And as promised, we're trying out some new technology and stuff. So henceforth, why a little bit of the hiccups, the start of the setup, we didn't quite have it set up completely, totally as it should have been. So it's kind of important. And I'll tell you, you could look at on any given channel. You can look on any given channel anywhere, and I will give you the scoop. They've got probably 3 or 4, 5, 6 cameramen. Even the one guy shows, they have probably at least 3 cameramen. 2 or 3 cameramen, different angles, boom mics, the whole 9. So it's not him alone in the middle of the forest. I would love to think that, but unless the camera is right in his face, like a camcorder kind of deal, kind of like most of my shows, like very organic. It's kind of how it works. So that being said, there's a lot of setup that's usually involved. that I don't always involve myself in, apparently, as you guys know, but I want to thank you all for being here. Yeah, to Insight with Moonshadow Journeys. I am over on the West Coast right now in Nevada right now. So I'm in Reno, Nevada. Now, also, this is not just the only location I'll be in over the next 20 days or 19 days. So I want to say hello to everyone and thank you for being here. And we will get this puppy started. So welcome to Insight with Moonshadow. I am Moonshadow. I'm an integrative therapist. No. That's the blooper reel. Just saying. God forbid. Okay. Take two. This will definitely.
Oh, and the air conditioning just started.
Yes. Good question. Now, how's the air conditioning? As you can tell, I got some color. So is the air conditioning bothering anyone? Or do I have to sweat like Elvis in Vegas? Because Vegas is only a few hours away. I will sweat. I will sweat for you guys. No, seriously. All right, fantastic. So let's restart this. Oh my goodness. All right, there we go. Take a breath. Here we go. Let's do this. Welcome to Insight with Moonshadow. I am Moonshadow. I'm an integrative holistic therapist, intuitive shaman, and CHI-vangelist with over 30 years of experience in the healing field internationally. And my intention here is to guide you and empower others so you can be the light in the world and not be part of this crazy stuff that's happening. It's been constantly happening. So it's all about trying to bring back order in the chaos and being the light in the darkness. So this is a big part of why I do what I do here. So we could be the change in the world today because, believe it or not, one voice, one phone, one camera, one live stream, one YouTube channel. Social media is a powerful tool nowadays. So if you really take a real good look at it, prior to, we had to go looking at a lot of news. We had to look at a lot of that. But there are so many more grassroots people being in the forefront, speaking their mind. Some people maybe or maybe not shouldn't speak their mind because they maybe didn't think things through. But I will say this though, but in the column of optimism, there are a lot of people out there that are really trying to do a lot of good. And they're doing it from the one person standpoint. They're doing it from the one live stream, the one YouTube, the one Busker, the one Periscope, even the Facebook Live. So that is really incredibly important. And we all should be. If you can't be a major beacon, you don't have to be. Just reflect it. Just send good juju. Just kind of like think good affirmations and think good thoughts. So I know that was a bit of a long intro. However, from the Life is Messy column. But I will say this. I'm going to do some shout outs real quick before we get to the topic. I want to say on my way through Providence, all the way up to Reno, I met some really uber great people. So I want to give a shout out to Claudia and company, new subbies, new subscribers. So I want to say it's Claudia, Ella, Tommy, and Gabby. So I want to thank them, and they made the flight just awesome. So don't forget how to play Scribble, by the way. Scribble? Scoodle? I forget where it was. I forget the name of the game already. But hi guys, and thank you for being here. So, giving shout outs also too. I want to thank Michael for being here, straight from Minnesota, also Pamela from the Bahamas, and everyone else that's just watching this broadcast. So I want to thank you guys for being here on Insight with Moonshadow Live. Journeys, West Coast style. That's not going to be the title. That was kind of weird. But it'll be an interesting title, trust me. We'll figure it out, all that stuff. So I want to thank you guys for being here and being here for, you know, in essence, 84 now. It's episode 84. We've been doing this that long. And I want to thank everyone that's been so supportive, you know, through just either good juju or they're near and dear people that actually have some equipment and things, which is also really, and again, just this, some of this is borrowed, some of this is stuff I brought from home. It's just like Frankenstein live streaming, but I'll tell you, it looks pretty damn good for considering this is a low budget show, low budget. But I want to thank you guys for being here. So now, on with the topic, on with the show. Now, interestingly enough, when you go ahead and start and you plan a trip, so you get the itinerary going, and I did the same. Plan the itinerary, that's good. We have the airfare set, all that's set, everything is gone. We know when we're leaving, where we're headed, where we're going, where the layovers are, how long the layovers are, etc. However, this never always goes exactly to plan, ever. There's always, and you've heard me say this before, timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly things that you may not understand, but just happens. So in the spirit of keeping this PG, stuff happens, or shift happens. How's that? We'll do that. So sometimes we have to be prepared mentally and physically and emotionally to be ready for the trip. So now this is part of the reasoning of that. And then there's some new topics going to be coming up while I'm out here on the West Coast. So it's going to be very interesting. And I'll tease a little bit. Just a little bit. I'll tease you guys just a little bit. Ghosts. That's all I'm going to say. Haunted places. Ooh, I said too much. I said too much. But anyway, but it's going to be very, very interesting. This is just the first show. I'm going to be also filming, and also I still have footage from from when I was in the West Coast last time, which I'm still rectifying and sorting out too. And it's just been crazy, you know, working and doing everything and trying to stay on track with everything, and having my mind is not always easy. So I know exactly what it was like to be, you know, I can guarantee most visionaries and most Renaissance people that we hold in high regard, most of them lost the plot. Most of them were not organized. Most of them barely slept. There are studies to this. Most of them had high IQs but were not punctual. They weren't followers of the conformity of everything. So with that said, my posse is of that same ilk, of that old school, we're going to do what we got to do in a depth kind of deal. So from looking at that perspective, you know, prep is important. So even though, you know, I'm a pretty spontaneous individual in life, and I never know what's coming, where I'm going, how it's ending up, I will say this: there is some prep involved, and some ziggy-zaggy juju energy as well. So these are all things that you kind of need to kind of think about and look at. So well before, you know, once you actually have the trip planned, you have the itinerary, you have that set up, right? And by the way, there's an American Legion bike run happening. So between scooters and Harleys, it's a thing. I'm not even kidding. There's a scooter in the hotel. as well as, bikes outside. So interesting. But now looking at it from the prep of being able to prep yourself for the trip, a lot of it is mindfulness. It's not something where you can just fly by the seat of your pants. As much as I would like to just do that and throw everything into a backpack and go, there is some level of mindfulness and some level of prep, whether it be spiritually, emotionally, physically, all of that. There's aspects that need to be thought of. Now, feel free to share in the chat, anybody, your experience of what you think about or how you've prepped for your trips. So feel free. This is part of a conversation. This is not just me in a broadcast, even though I'm here on camera, but you are a big part of the show. So this is very, very important that you chime in. Anyone that's here that's not saying, that hasn't said hi, feel free to pop in the chat and say hello, and I too will give you a shout out. So in the beginning of the whole prep, you really need to make sure that the importance of being mentally prepared, because this is the one thing that we tend to make okay, you notice I don't say mistake much, but the hard lesson here is not always being prepared mentally. Okay, so now Ariel is saying here, I always get super nervous about going somewhere. My prepping involved lots of lists and cleaning. Now, I give her a lot of credit for even getting lists. My intention prior to even leaving for this trip was to make lists, was to prep everything in a more orderly fashion. So in this case, I can't even see there's a word that describes how I packed. There's a sound effect, and the sound effect was eh. That's what the sound effect was. So in getting prepped up for this, it was somewhat semi-organized, oh my goodness, what the hell's going on? But it all happened, and it happened well. So it all kind of comes out in the wash anyway. So to start off mentally, you got to be prepared for the trip. Now, granted, there are so many different reasons why we go on a trip, or we leave on a trip. Sometimes it's for good reasons or positive reasons. You go to see friends, family, people that you care about, or it could be something like a funeral, that kind of deal. It could be a wedding. It could be, a baptism. It could be, you name it. Yes, and Michael is saying here, there are many great smartphone apps for doing prep and making lists. And you are absolutely right. One big moonsight here is you have to use them. Yes, I have some of those apps. I don't use them. Timey, wimey, wibbly wobbly, right? So I tend to be very, very adaptive. Right from that minute, right from the get-go, it's kind of like some craziness. Just like you never really know, there is a soul and a spirit to every single trip. Every single trip, there's a soul or spirit to it. So the last time I was on the West Coast, totally different vibe, totally different energy. Why? It just is. It's what happens. So something to be aware of. So when you expect things, now, I'm not a big fan of expectations. Why? Because when you expect, it usually doesn't work out in that way. So ultimately, being open-hearted and open-minded in what's going to happen in your travels, because it's very easy to say, oh, it's going to be such an awesome time. I'm going to have the most awesomest time on the whole entire planet. It's going to be so much fun, and there's going to be no difficulty whatsoever. It's going to be fantastic. That'd be good for an affirmation. But be prepared for stuff to go down. Be prepared to maybe miss your flight, i.e., my last flight coming from the West Coast back over to home. I was on standby the whole way back. Was it nerve-wracking? Yes, but I'll tell you, it was well worth it because I got to meet someone near and dear to me that I haven't seen in a long time. I've never seen physically. So, and I have to give a shout out to Q, because Q, you rock. So, in the grand scheme of things don't always work out exactly how you plan them. So a little bit of structure, a little bit of planning is kind of nice. Mentally getting yourself prepared to leave your home, because that in itself is something that we don't always do. And Michael, you're absolutely right. Now, we have tools, right? So utilize your tools, which is good, because we have plenty of tools. All your faculties, use them to the best of your capability. That's something that you should do. It's not always easy to do that, but try to be as balanced as you can. And it's very difficult. It could be a very stressful to get ready for a trip. Now, if you have a family, if you have kids, now also too, I can even say my sister she's on the East Coast, but she's also traveling this week. So now me, I'm talking about electronics in tow, extra bags, things like that. That's a little different. But with her, it's her, my brother-in-law, and 2 kids. So gotta bless people with multiple kids to go on trips. That's even more prep and even more stressful than just you. And thank God my spirit guides and totem animals and inner council don't have to pack bags, because then I'd never go anywhere. True story. But now, looking at it from that perspective, the mental setup, it's important to kind of get things ready as soon as you possibly can to be prepared for the trip, because last minute stuff can be nerve-wracking. So even right up until the trip, and that is something where I've always dealt with, even as being a musician way back when, I'd be perfectly fine up until 5 minutes before getting out on stage. 5 minutes before. I still have a little bit of that even now in live streaming and broadcasting. Did the same thing when I was on radio. 5 minutes before, oh my God. Is everything all right? Is everything good? Freaking out. But see, this is part of the adventure as well. So yes, so if you have tools, there are tools to help you organize and be organized. So utilize those tools to the best of your knowledge. If you can set up a list, whether it be mental or physical list, prior to even packing, I totally suggest that. Now, do I practice what I preach? I'm going to say most of the time I do. But there is that 1-5% that doesn't always work out that way all the time. That's the organic part, and probably why some of you come onto the show to see what the hell is he going to say now? What's going on? Oh my God. All of that. So being prepared is very, very important, and having all your stuff really put aside. But the mindfulness and mental activity prior to, you have to be ready for the trip. You have to be ready for the move, because in essence, you are leaving your home. For the most part, a lot of people, home is more than just a physical address. Home is where you feel most comfortable. It's where all your stuff is. You could be connected to your stuff, you could be not connected to your stuff. But it's just still your stuff, and it's there. You know where your coffee pot is. You know where you're going to get coffee. You know where the bathroom is. You know where your mailbox is. You know all these things. You know the lay of the land. Now, when you're traveling and you have no idea, sight unseen, you don't know what the hotel's going to look like if you go into a hotel, if you go to an Airbnb. Pictures do not always do you justice, and you don't necessarily know what you're going to get until you get there. So be prepared, and that's another thing too, is be prepared for interesting little side things to happen. Be prepared for things not to necessarily work out in the way that you expect. So this is something where you should also take a look at. So mentally ready. So now you are mentally ready. You'll say, okay, going to Disneyland. I'm taking my 5 kids. God help you. 5 kids. Taking my wife, husband, mother-in-law, father-in-law, 5 kids, all that in tow, everything. You mentally got to be prepared. It's almost like getting ready for anything, because almost anything can happen at that moment. So now you're mentally prepared. Now you got to go from the theoretical to the applicable, right? Because it's all about the doing. It's all about the action. So make sure you set all your stuff aside prior to. All your packing materials, all your bags, everything aside. Also, it's very, very important to put something aside, to put the bag aside, or set up in a little area where you can start, because I can almost guarantee you're going to forget something. Now, knock on stone here, because this is not wood. This is actually a pretty nice hotel room. But you will almost always forget something. And I can honestly say, I did not forget anything today, this week, going on this trip. So that's a step in the right direction. That could be a good trend, a good habit, not forgetting things. So that's also good. Now also to be prepared, because if you are a social person, I myself, I like making friends anywhere. I'll talk to anybody, blind, deaf, crazy, doesn't matter. I think people are wonderful. Be prepared to deal with grumpy and know when and when not to speak with people, because their stress can easily become your stress very quickly. I've been fortunate that putting energy out there, that people have been very kind and very friendly, and I've met a lot of really nice people, and this trip was no different. I can honestly say this little family, including Grandma and Grandpa, I didn't catch their names, but even Grandma and Grandpa were there. It made the flight so much nicer. I wasn't just there with my thoughts, even though being in your thoughts are nice. But it was a pleasure being able to connect with other people from other places, sharing each other's stories, why you're taking the trip, where you're going, things you've seen, all of it. And I can honestly say in the, 2-hour trip, the 2-hour trip really felt like it was about 30 minutes just because of the conversation. And it was really awesome. Now, one thing also too, the sound of life. Now, this is also a big part of it too. A lot of people, they tend to want, they're plugged into their phones or their music, and they don't connect. I'm not going to judge or criticize you for kind of shutting out the rest of the world, or shutting out the rest of the people on the plane or anything. But I will say this. They could be just as stressed as you. They could be just as anxious as you. So wouldn't it be really nice, and good karma as well, for you to help someone with their bag? Help someone with their bag. If you see someone struggling, help someone with their bag. Or if you see a kid, a child kind of being fussy, do something silly and goofy. Yes, I've done that, and then that is coyote medicine, but it's something that you could do. It's part of being that light. It's part of being just being kinder in the world. We forget, and we've lost all that kindness in the world. Now everything is so volatile. So when you're traveling, be aware that you can make the trip better. And a lot of it's coping skills. A lot of it is being mentally ready and then being physically ready. So when you pack, make sure you pack everything. If you have to make lists, do make lists. You could talking to your telephone now. Now you get the smartphones with all kinds of apps. Just even your recorder, you can do an audio list. Okay, don't forget such and such. Don't forget, fruit snacks. Don't forget, granola bars. I'm a big person for snacks. Love snacking in the plane. You never know what you're going to get. And I will say, even with the airlines, everyone was really kind and really, really nice and very, very helpful. Now, snacks are amazing. You need to carry snacks, whether you are by yourself or with family in tow. You may or may not get fed. I read I was going to get fed. I got snack mix. No bueno. But I got over it because I had Belvitas, and I shared my Belvitas with a few people because I had quite the bag of Belvita cinnamon, cinnamon sugar breakfast biscuits. So on a sad note, though, I will say there was no Biscoffs on this flight. Not a happy camper. But I know I can get Biscoffs, so I'm over it. I'm over it now. It's okay. I adapted. So now being physically and mentally ready is really, really important. Now, in looking at going on your trip, you really make your trip end up whether it's good or not good. Really, if you really, really think about it, your adaptability is what's going to make it better or worse. Now, in the process, up until now, up until this broadcast, the flight went smoothly, but there were some poor fussy kids, and you know, I have to give props to the parents. I spoke with them, and I tried to kind of, you know, cheer the kids up a little bit, but it's hard to be on a plane with a fussy kid with, you know, 100 other people or however many other people in the plane. So it's something where try not to be too critical or judgmental on someone. You know, you don't know what shoes those people are walking in. So if you have to take a breath or plug in headphones or something, do so. But the last thing you want to do is you know, make things more stressful for them or for you. So that's the important thing too. Take a breath. Practice your breathing. And there's another broadcast I have right on this on my YouTube channel where it's you can breathe like Dalai Lama, which is pretty awesome. So it's all about being as balanced as you can be and trying to be connected. Now there was like a room switch, there was keys locked in the vehicle. These are little things that it was added to the adventure. Okay, but there's a Starbucks nearby. Bonus. You know, double word score. It was like, you know, a nice caramel macchiato while we waited for AAA to show up. All these things are really important. It's all part of the adventure. So also one of the big tips and tricks about is also this. For you to make your trip as smoothly as possible, don't carry a lot of things in your pocket. Don't wear shoes that you have to lace up all the way up to your thigh. Not that many people wear that, you know, not usually, but you know what I'm saying. Don't wear the most complex footwear that you own to go on a plane, because ultimately you still have to go through security. You have to do that. So big, also another nice little moon nugget here, a moon site would be to check the TSA for any new rules, regulations, or things, so you're not in a surprise mode. I went through security in 2.2 seconds. It wasn't long, and I even got patted down and groped. Thank you, by the way. That was really awesome action. I even had the security people laughing. Why? Because you know what? It's a little awkward getting frisked in front of a bunch of people. And I had the choice of being private. I said, hey, you know what? I'm on YouTube. I'm pretty transparent. Don't worry about it. It's probably a lot more action than I've had in a long time. So, needless to say, it was a great beginning, and it went through smoothly. Why? Because you're prepared for it. You need to be prepared for all of your setup, all of your things. Also, to accessibility. If you have your personal item, your backpack, make sure you have your wallet, make sure you have your ID, make sure you have your passport, make sure you have your children's passports if you're traveling with family. All the things you need, make sure you have them in one pocket and you have them where it's readily available, so you don't drop anything. It's so easy for things to get really messed up completely. But the thing is, if you're somewhat prepared and somewhat balanced, and again, breathing is key. I cannot tell you guys enough. Breathing is so key. If all of a sudden you hear, oh, well, this flight's a little delayed or whatever, just take a deep breath, because 9 out of 10, it's not half as bad as it's going to be. You are ultimately the producer and director of your life. You are the person that's going to be able to know whether or not this is going to go fabulously, or if it's going to hit the fan. So this is something to really, really think about. So prepare yourself, having everything. Now, if you're stowing bags, which I do suggest stowing a bag so you don't have to carry 18 million bags, make sure it's orderly. Make sure everything is there so you don't forget anything. Now, preferably, if you can pack a couple of days in advance, that's even better. I myself, half of what I packed, I wear, so it was like last minute doing a load of laundry to pack clothes. This is the downside of having favorite t-shirts and clothes and whatnots, and not having a huge wardrobe or wardrobe budget. But that can happen. So now, when looking at that, you can really view things from that perspective, to be prepared. Now, also to understand that security is not meant to be a burden. Some of these people are working really, really hard, and they're going through thousands upon thousands of people in any given day. So it would be nice just to be a little kind. And you know what? Yes, sometimes it's like going to the DMV, and you might get a grumpy one, but just think about it for 1 second. If you are going through thousands of people a day, having to ask them, if they have any fluids in their bags, if you have all these questions that they have to go through, cut them a little bit of slack. Realize that this is travel and fun for you, potentially. It could be for work, but it could also be very stressful for them, because they're going through thousands and thousands and thousands of people. So here's a little bit of another tip too. Now, if the airplane has an app, and I'll tell you, this is something that I flew United this time around. It was awesome because United actually has an app. It tells you everything, everything. It tells you your flight status. But fun fact, you need to install this before your plane takes off. So be informed. So what ended up happening was, I picked up downloaded the United app. It's got a lot of interesting activities in there. It tells you flight status, tells you where you are. You can check in from this app as well. So I have to give big kudos to United for being in the state-of-the-art department of really doing that. Also, too, you have the ability to also have private personal entertainment on your smartphone or tablet. So you could literally, I watched Fantastic Beasts, which, by the way, watch it. Phenomenal movie. Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. I have not been able, I still am catching up with a lot of movies, but on the plane, you're there, and I watched it on my BlackBerry, and it was phenomenal. Loved it. And I watched it right on my phone with my headset. So with the plane I was in, they didn't have any screens, but it's an added plus especially in the day and age that we are in, to have your smartphone, because you can literally have a lot of different aspects to entertain yourself. Moving on, this is also important too. Bring something to entertain yourself with. Now, if you're a tablet person, which I am as well, tablets are fantastic because you can go ahead and put 400, 500 books on your tablet. That's fantastic. But just let's say Your battery dies in your tablet. You've got nothing to read. Bring a novel. Bring something you haven't brought before. Go ahead and go old school with an actual book, because you may need it. Also, too, I'm a big fan of word searches, so bringing a book of word searches is great because it keeps your mind engaged, but it's not like crossword puzzle. You have to overstress your mind at a given moment. You can still be aware of your surroundings. So that's also part of the maneuverability of it. So now, let's see here. Now also too, another little tip is if you are in the person that you're going to be receiving the person, you're at the airport waiting for the person to come up, right? The app is going to be very, very important. You also need to kind of keep on top of status, flight status, and that kind of thing, and that could be nerve-wracking too. So it is like a team effort for you to be able to check in the flight, know what's going on, and also to keep in touch, because in the world today we have all this technology to make sure that we FaceTime people. You can WhatsApp people, you can video chat, and whatever. Yes, I've heard of that. See, Pamela just wrote a book as well. I did hear about that. And we'll have to catch up properly because it's been too long. Absolutely. And also too, now being prepared with making sure you have the airline app, big plus. The fact that it's got personal entertainment, that's really great. And it had TV, it had movies, it had a lot of different things. And I actually had turned on the family to the app, and the children were able to check stuff out on their mom's smartphone. So that was a big plus. And it was Squiggle, by the way. That was the name of the game I played with little Gabby, was Squiggle. I thought I made it up years ago, but obviously there's an actual game. So I intuited the game, an already existing game or a game that was becoming existent, but it was fun. It was lots of fun. Now also too, be prepared to have to pay for your baggage and that kind of thing. Now, I still have to find out if I double paid for stowing a bag, because initially with starting the trip, I thought that everything was covered, everything was set. But when I get to the desk, now again, take a deep breath, people, because shift happens. So I had to basically pay for the baggage. So they said if you went through a third party, so this is another interesting fact. If you go through a third party, be aware that if you're paying for checked baggage, make sure that you actually don't have to pay at the desk or when you're stowing the bag. Also very important, the weight. One family I spoke to, they were at the airport and they had to unload, I think 12 pounds. They were 12 pounds over, and it was going to cost them $250. $250 for a 61-pound bag. So what do we do in this case? You zip, you like zig and zag, right? So you go ahead and you start moving stuff out of that bag to make it lighter. And that's what they did. They just moved stuff around in their different bags until that bag was 50 pounds and they didn't have to pay any more than the average fee. So this is also important. So check the rules of the airline, because you don't want any surprises. Also, if there's possibility of doing this, I know we all want to bring home with us. I'm notorious for this too. I pack part of my belongings, my favorite things that are near and dear to me. You know, I have one of my favorite Khalil Gibran books, which has been all over the world with me. Now, do I read it all the time? No, but it's there. It's always with me. I always have it. So so you bring a little bit of home with you, but don't bring all of home. If you don't, if you're not going to bring things that you're not going to use, don't bring it. So think about that. Am I really, really, really going to use this? Am I really, really going to need this? That kind of thing. So that's important. So be quite aware of what you're packing, how you're packing it, and all that. If you do all those things prior to in prep mode, then if a surprise comes up, you're not going to be thrown or blindsided. So you're going to be in pretty good shape for the most part. Now, also too, since this, most of Insight with Moonshadow here is all really about mind, body, and spirit. So you need to be prepared with everything, mind, body, and spirit. You need to be prepared for anything that can happen. So I will tell you this as well. A smile goes a long way. It really goes a long way. If you just breathe, things could get worse. Unless there's a zombie apocalypse. Well, we are kind of in an apocalypse now. But unless it is a battle going on where it's fight or flight, you can make changes to make things better. Always. There's always a choice to make things better. And I can honestly, absolutely, without a doubt, tell you that you can make things better. Absolutely. Now, coming up as well, also in a future topic of the show, we're going to do some other things, and we're going to be on remote. So this right here is in the hotel. I'm hoping, knock on granite, stone, corian top, whatever this is, I'm hoping to go to some different locations. Now, when trying to live stream at the airport, the connection was horrible, but I did film. So you guys will get to see the footage of all of it, not just this live stream, but also the footage of the show itself as we go. So at the end of it all, you'll see a nice put together piece of everything. Thankfully to my trusty crew. Yes, some of them in the physical realm, some of them are not. So, and as Michael is saying too, he said life happens, and it does. So it's so important to try to make the best of things. I know it's not always easy, and even now presently, I can tell you that there are things going on that that I could tell you that could make your head spin. But the point is this, though. There's always a better way of coping with it. There's always a better way of doing it. There's always a better way that you could have packed. There's always a better way that you could have done things. So learn from your harder lessons. Realize, okay, I'm going to drive a rental car. Should I get insurance? Yeah, probably be a good idea. Should I have AAA or some kind of thing? Yes, that's kind of important. All those things are really important. Like I travel myself, I always travel with a multi-tool. I tend to try to hike. I try to be in nature as much as I possibly can. So you know what? Having that with me is always really, really important. Why? It can cut up an apple. You can cut a twig. And if, God forbid, you're stranded somewhere, you can make a small lean-to. Hasn't happened yet. But camping out in the airport for 20 hours, that's almost like I was almost in making a campfire in the middle of the airport, because that's what it felt like. I felt like Tom Hanks in the terminal last trip. Believe me, it was not fun, but it was worth it. It made me a different person. That I will say for sure. Now also too, if there's anything that you guys have to share, any experiences you have, feel free to throw it up on the chat, because you know what? It's great to hear. And it's all about sharing the conversation. It's all about connecting with all of you and doing it on a weekly basis. So this is like really, really good stuff. Like Michael needs to get out of Minnesota. You need to travel, Michael. Seriously. You need to get on a bus or get on a flight or do something for sure. Adventure is coming for you. Gotta say. Now, also too, there are so many people in the Insight with Moonshadow tribe that really have really helped out so much. So this is really like a labor of love for all of for everything that we do here. So a lot of I call them the usual suspects, but there are a lot of the usual suspects that are here. So this is what makes it all more fun and pretty incredible. It's a pretty incredible place. It's a hell of an adventure and experience for me, and I'm glad that you come along for the ride as well. Now, another little tip: try new things. Try new things. So this is a big moon site for you. Big moon site. If you're out and you haven't tried something, the best time to try is when you're away. You know, you've heard of the saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. Well, you can say what happens in Minnesota stays in Minnesota. What happens in the Bahamas stays in the Bahamas. You don't have to share it. Or if you're going to post it and share it, be prepared for the for the consequences too. So do not post that selfie mojitos. Just say no, because that is going to live forever in your social media. So be prepared before you hit post. Do I really want to post me mooning the captain of the cruise ship? Probably not. It might be fun as hell at the moment, but then when you come home, you know, your Mormon grandmother or devout Catholic parents, they might go, what was that all about? Sorry, not sorry, 18 mojitos. I just couldn't help myself. Yes, I mooned the captain of the ship. So own it. Sometimes you got to own it too. But ultimately, truly life is a journey. So it's just what it is. So I'm just documenting what I'm doing. But ultimately, all of us are on an adventure. All of us are on a journey. And it's not all set up. It's not all pre-planned. Some of it's pre-planned, some of it isn't. Some of it is being prepared, some of it's being adaptive. Being rigid like an oak is not going to save you. It's not going to help you. Being stubborn and obstinate won't necessarily help you or get you out of the mess. However, sometimes being like the willow, being more adaptable, definitely makes things a little different. It makes you feel, first of all, you actually have more control of it with better coping skills. So things can happen. The plane can be delayed. They can try to coax you to take a $200 voucher because they oversold and overbooked the plane. Yes, that did happen this flight. Not to me, because I was pretty resolute with it. Especially because when you have a schedule, you have scheduled things, places that you have to be, places that you have to go. You have no choice. Yes. And Michael says, Ben, don't break. And that's exactly the point. Being adaptable is not being weak. It's actually being prepared for any moment. You do that, that makes all the difference in the world. Now, let's see if I'm forgetting anything. Also, one little interesting tip as well. If you do not like your accommodations, you are paying for your trip. You have every right to ask or let them know that you're not happy with something. You're not inconveniencing them. They see this all day long. So if the room isn't to your liking, you know, within reason, you don't want to be unreasonable, but within reason, if you're paying the amount of money you're paying for everything, you want to make sure that you're getting what you pay for. You know, that's really, really important too. So if they say you have great internet, that's one of the situations that I had to deal with, being that in the beginning and also having to work partially on this trip as well. I needed good internet. I needed to make sure it was solid. I had to do also prep with all that too to make sure this was happening. So all of it really, really makes a difference, and all that really, really matters. So, but I will say this though, and here's the twist: is don't come off like you're entitled just because you paid whatever you paid for the flight, the room, the accommodations, your food, whatever. Don't be a douche nozzle. Yes, I said douche nozzle. Why? Because I have to be PG. I've got all kinds of subbies now, and they go from 8 to 80. So you know what? I gotta be watchful. But the thing is, don't be a jerk about it. So if your food wasn't to your liking, be considerate and compassionate to that person, to that wait person, and say, well, this is what I find wrong, and can you fix it? There's that old saying, you attract more flies with honey than vinegar, and it's very true. Being a jerk about things or being malicious isn't going to get things better for you. It's just going to make the situation and your adventure take a turn for the worse. So that in itself is not something you want to do. So again, from the smile department, take a breath, smile. This will pass. Unless it's something life or death situation, it's going to be okay. And 99.9% of the time, it's usually going to be okay. Now, interestingly enough, there are times I'll go into a restaurant and I'll just say, surprise me. Yeah, I do that. There are also restaurants that I order the same thing over and over again because it's just amazeballs. It's just amazing food. And sometimes it's hard to shift it because you're kind of in the mood for craving of that particular dish. But in the essence of that, though, is be kind to that person, because if you are that way, then you're going to realize that they're going to be willing to help you. If you come off with, you know what, my room is all, well, guess what? 9 out of 10, they're going to be like, we'll see what we can do, ma'am, sir, miss, mister. And then they may not have a room as available for you because you were kind of douchey. So, tip, don't be. Take a deep breath, realize that other people have stress and other people have bad days no different than you. So if you put yourself in their shoes for 1.1 second, even if it's 1 second, you will realize that no matter who you are, all of us have the ability to have a bad moment or a negative moment or a tough time or a stressful minute, anything like that. So this is all something to think about. And I can honestly say, in my many years of traveling, and I've traveled internationally, it's been very rare that I've ever had anyone treat me disrespectfully. Because right from the get-go, I'm looking at it from a different perspective. Now, part of that's being empathic, but you don't have to be empathic to be nice. And nice is not weak. Nice is actually putting more into the world. You're actually balancing out things. So yes, we have our shadow side. Yes, we have our difficulties. And yes, there's sometimes I'm really ticked off about things. Sure. But to linger on it will just make things totally worse. So in that sense, this is the real reason for this particular topic, for this particular broadcast, this particular show today, because it's so important that we look at things from a mind, body, and spirit perspective. It's more than just physically getting to the place. It's more than that. You know, if you're going to go to Disneyland or Disney World or Epcot, be prepared to be in a line. It's part DMV, part amusement park. Trust me when I tell you. But you can pay good money and not have to wait in line. But you need to fork over the dough to get in front of the line. That's like VIP. Mickey doesn't screw around. It's like, Mickey would be like, oh, hey, you know what? You could be in the front of the line too. If you throw us some money. And also too, yeah, that was kind of Mickey Mouse on crack, wasn't it? But that's okay. I used to be able to do Donald Duck, but after puberty, didn't happen. And I won't even attempt it. But be prepared for what you're going through and what possibilities. Be a sport utility human. Like I carry a multi-tool. Be a multifaceted person. Be prepared. You know your kid gets finicky with food. Bring a snack. You know that you usually forget things. Make a list. You know that where you're going, your accommodations, or the family that you're visiting may not be fully prepared for your arrival. Take a breath. It can be better. It could be worse. All of these things are super important for you to make your trip, your adventure, your journey, whatever it is, whether it's down the street or whether it's around the corner or whether it's 1,000 miles away, whether it's to a different country. I happen to love that, and I've only been to one, but I look forward to going to further new places, going to more remote places. Hopefully not on my dime. So by the way, Travel Channel, Discovery, Animal Planet, be prepared. You'll be seeing a video. What else? There's Discovery, Travel Channel, Animal Planet. There's a few. So we're working on bigger and better things here at Inside with Moonshadow, for sure. So let's bring this broadcast to a close. I want to thank all of you for being here. But preparation. Getting ready for a trip. Be prepared mentally, be prepared physically, and be prepared spiritually, because you never know what you're going to get. It's very much like Tom Hanks in Forrest Gump. Life is definitely a box of chocolates, and you never know what you're going to get. And even with the box of chocolates, there's a map. And even if you think you got the right chocolate, you always end up with the pinky creamy thing, and you don't know what the hell it is. And you're like, what is this? So of course you have to share with someone that you love. Try this. This tastes really bad. Yeah. It's real. It happens. But life is very much like a box of chocolates, so it's something to think about. You never have full control of everything. So being adaptable and bending, not breaking, like the wisdom that Michael had shared, was very important. And I want to thank Michael for giving that little nugget straight out from Minnesota, don't you know? Hey, Pamela, how you doing? You caught us towards the end of the broadcast, by the way. But it's always nice to see you, though. Very nice to see you as well. So, being prepared mentally, physically, and emotionally is really, really important. Learning to take a breath when you need to take a breath. Also, knowing when to move and knowing when to be stern. Knowing those small little moments of knowing when to adapt and when not to adapt, when to hold your own, when to own it, and when to move forward. That is, see, there you go. And also, by the way, Pamela that came in, we got two Pams in the house, two Pamelas, but she's also from Minnesota. So Michael, Pamela, Pamela, Michael. Also from Minnesota. Two Mins? I don't know. Something like that. Minos? I don't know. We'll make up a new one. Sounds good. But all of it is basically is this, and to bring it down to the end of the broadcast, life is an adventure. everything is a journey. And really, if you really think about it, anywhere you go, you may find yourself with new surprises and new things. So be aware, be mindful, and take a real good look at what you have around you, because you may be missing out on some really beautiful things. You may be missing out on wonderful experiences just because you can't get out of your own way. So do your best to get out of your own way, people. And I hope you have more adventures down the road, because trust me, life is truly a journey and life's truly an adventure. So on that note, I want to thank all of you for being here with me on Insight with Moonshadow Live Journeys. And this is over hailing from Nevada today, soon to be even further West Coast. I want to thank you all for being here. All of you do inspire me for doing this work. And trust me when I tell you, there are some days that it's like the setup, the putting things together, oh my God, why isn't this working? The technology, why isn't this happening? Everything. But you all are worth it for doing it every week. So I want to thank you all for being here, because you inspire me, and you make me want to do this more and more. So I really appreciate your energy, your submissions, your support, all of that. So if you are guided to connect and support, feel free to subscribe. All my social media is on phoenixrisinghealingarts.com or moonphoenixrising.com. So feel free to connect me there. If you have any ideas for show topics, something that is very moon-like or very moody, feel free to throw me a DM or shoot me a Facebook message, anything like that. Send me suggestions. I will definitely consider them, for sure. Also, show topics. Also, there is a survey in the description that you can go ahead and fill out, if you guys don't mind, for merchandise. So I'm actually thinking of Insight with Moonshadow swag, and one of the extra benefits of that is not only do you support or help support my journey here with broadcasting, but also a percentage of that will go to a charity immediately. So right as you buy the merchandise, automatically a percentage goes to the charity of choice. And there's a whole bunch of different charities. But it first starts with the survey. So feel free to go to that survey and fill it out. It'll take maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes tops. It won't take long. But if you are interested in wearing an Insight with Moonshadow t-shirt or something, looks like possibly coffee mugs, possibly t-shirts, who knows, maybe sweatshirts, something like that. But if you can, take a couple minutes and fill out the survey. I really appreciate it. And that would give me a good idea of what all of you would be interested in. Because I don't want to be doing something that's not going to be interesting or it's just going to sit around. So I want to thank you for that. And as always, be strong, be amazing, be you. See you guys. Lots of light and love to you guys, and from the West Coast. See you next Monday. And I may be live streaming in the interim on the fly, so stay tuned. And see you next week. Take care.